Hello, it's Jonathan at the Piano Lesson. Welcome back. Uh, Today I'm going to talk about a great tune by Duke Ellington called Duke's Place. Why am I talking about that? Well, it's a great tune. What else do you need? But it's also really easy to play, and it's deceptively simple. The simpler the tune is, in some respects, the harder it is to develop it. And, you have really just two notes in the melody in this case. So I'll kind of do a stream of consciousness on it, and, we'll talk about different aspects, and especially the left hand also, different things you can do with the left hand. I've been going regularly now to a local jazz club kind of once a week, and different people sit in, and it's nice to kind of tailor your tunes based on the people that are playing, and what their style is and what they feel comfortable doing. And so it's nice to have different tunes to play that aren't too demanding, have too many chords in them, but this tune is just a blues. It's just a blues. And typically it's done in C. And by the way, just so you guys know, when you post something to my channel, I've not been getting notifications that people post comments. So if you're not getting a reply, that's partly why. I kind of just found out about some of them, but I'm not exactly sure why that's the case, but we'll figure it out. So yeah, let's just jump into this tune, and we'll play a little of it. There are words to this tune also. That's the whole tune. And that's the entire tune. So what does that look like? What does that look like? Well, one and 2, 3, 4. So got a quarter rest and a half rest. Ba-dum, 2, ba-dum, 4. 1 and 2 and then one more measure here, 4. Right, so it's 1, 2, 3. That's the 4-measure phrase. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1. The dot stands for the first half of count 2. 2 and 1 and 2 and whoops, I'm messing up here a little bit. 1 and 2 and then a half rest, and then our fourth measures way over here. Okay. Half rest, by the way, sit on the third line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are 5 lines. The half rest sits on the third line. The whole rest hangs off the third line. The way I remembered that as a kid, I remember like a guy with like a top hat, like a guy wearing a top hat, and so the guy, if that gets 2 counts because he's walking around, and then he takes his hat and he puts it down on a table, and he's staying for a while, so that gets the 4 counts. That's how I remembered it as a kid. So, but that's the whole thing. So that's the 4-measure phrase, and we're typically doing it in C. And what interval is that? It's a perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. That's a good way to remember a perfect fourth. And then it changes chords to the F, dominant 7, So here it goes. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. That's the whole tune. So it's 1 and 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ah. Right. So that's 12 bars altogether. As far as chord voicings go, the thing that makes the tune interesting harmonically is that if you play a C7, that's the fifth and the root. If you play the F7, you got that's a ninth. And if you want to include this, that that's just the fifth of the chord. So, but that's the ninth. That's what makes it sound interesting. And then the G, that's the root. So the function of that G changes, right? First it's the fifth, then it's the ninth, then it's the root. And that's what makes it sound kind of interesting. Now, left-hand pattern. That's the whole thing. You may have noticed I'm doing some slight variations with my left hand, just a little bit. The first time I just did this on the G, and the second time I did that. You notice I'm crossing my second finger over the thumb. That's kind of up to you. You could use your thumb like that, or you could here. You could kind of slide if you want, or I'm kind of used to crossing my finger. Now that's a little variation there. As opposed to, those are all quarter notes. The other one was, right? Then it adds a little rhythmic. That's another thing I did coming down. Now that serves two purposes. One is fingering to get me back down, and rhythmically, right? Or two different things, right? And then that's a little common little figure to get you back to the beginning again. I could just as easily have repeated this. I could just as easily have repeated that. Look at my fingers. Third finger, switch silently with my thumb. Right? So that's the moment I play 3, I'm immediately switching with my thumb. Why do I do that? Well, to connect the line. I don't have to, but I'm kind of used to it. Pianists are kind of used to train to connect notes. But and sometimes I'll even hold down that. And tempo. Now you can add a chord. So what am I doing there? Well, you could add a basic dominant chord. Right, that's our C7, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. Why am I choosing third inversion? Well, because the melody's on top. You try to keep the melody on top when you're harmonizing chords, typically. Here's first inversion. C and right. You know, you never get tired of the basics, but C, E, G, B flat. That's your C7, first inversion, second inversion, and third inversion. Oh, line, line, line. That's a regular C7, C7 over E, C7 with G, and C7 with B flat. Okay, and just yeah. Okay, and again, just a little music reading tip. Space note, that's a seventh. Okay, space note, line note, that's a sixth. Okay, space note, line note, that's a sixth. Right, and space note, line note, again, that's a sixth. They're all sixths, except for the root position chord. The root position chord is a seventh. So just be aware, all of these inversions have that outer interval in common, right? That's a minor sixth, though. Right? So there's a slight difference, major sixth and a major sixth. How do you tell the difference? Well, one simple way is the first note's E. You ask a simple question: what's the sixth note in an E major scale? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I don't want to play C sharp. I want to play C natural, and that's a lowered sixth. This would be a major sixth. This would be a minor sixth. If you take a major interval, you lower it a half step, you get minor. But over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's the sixth note in the key of G, and that's the sixth note in the key of B flat. So that's why these are all major. This is a major, that's a major sixth, and this is also a major sixth, and this is a minor sixth. And then you can look at the inside intervals here, right? Here you have a space note and a space note. That's a third. Here you have a space note and a space note. That's also a third. Here you have a space note and a line note. That's a second. So space note, space note. Space note, space note. What's the difference? Well, they're both minor thirds. And then space note, line note. That's a second. So those are some of the ways that you start to get good at reading music. Anyway. Now notice here I kind of slid off that note, give it a little bit more of some color. I could just do that as well. That's fine. But sliding off that note, that's your blues note. That's your flatted fifth. So it sounds bluesier when I do that. I could do both. That's very bluesy. Or I don't have to play the C because I have that in the root. I might want to play the ninth instead. And that looks like B flat, D, E, G. So I like that. B flat. This, I think my pen's giving up here. I'll try a different one. Let's hope it works. B flat, D, E, and G. I do that right? I do that right? No. What am I doing? I'm writing the wrong notes. I'm writing the wrong notes. B flat, C, D, right? E, and then the G. Okay, B flat, D, E, and G. That's on the line. So I got a ninth chord now, C9, or you could call it C7 with an added ninth. That sounds, or I could stick that in with my thumb, or I could slide off that note. There's a lot of possibilities to kind of play in the cracks. People don't talk about that enough, but jazz is all about playing in the cracks, playing in clusters. Now here's a good voicing, right? That's basic F7. It's F7 with an added ninth. Notice I chose the ninth there. The top part of that chord, A, C, E flat, G, it almost looks like A minor 7 flat 9. Excuse me, A minor 7 flat 5. Oh, my pens are losing their ink. Oh. You have A, C, E flat, and G. By itself, that's A minor 7 flat 5. But if you put the F in the bass, suddenly that is F7 with an added ninth. So it's another way to take simple chords that you might, easier chords you might already know, add a fifth note, and suddenly you have a 9 chord. And you might decide, well, I'm going to take that E, put it over here. And then G7. So that voicing is second inversion. Sliding on the note, that gives it more color, you know, rather than just, it sounds a little plain vanilla like that. Very hard for me to play just straight quarters all the time. Easier to play if I'm on an organ maybe, but now check out that voicing. Here's A minor 7 flat 5, okay? For those of you that want to learn more about 13 chords, let's say, there's two basic voicings for 13 chords. If you see the chord F7, well, that's F7, F, A, C, E flat, F, A, C, E flat. Right. Typically when I see F7, even in a blues, I don't necessarily play that. I'll play this instead, go up one note. That becomes, if you take that A and move it, take the C and move it up to D. Right. And then I'm adding one more note. I'm adding a ninth. So here's the E flat. Here's a G. That's the ninth. Here's the A. All right. I don't need to play the F. That's this is what we call our rootless voicing. So the F is in the bass. It's in the bass down here. So I'm getting rid of that note. That's F9. And I'm taking one note and I'm moving it up. And that's your F13. So the D is the 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's the D. And this half step, which would sound very dissonant by itself, in the context sounds actually pretty nice. It sounds much, much better. So the other way to voice this chord is to take these two notes and move them up here. Take the A and D and move them up an octave. So that would be the other way that I would play it. And actually, right now I'm playing an octave lower than written. So I might move it down, keep it on the staff. E flat, G, A, and D. Yeah, that's right. E flat, G, E flat, G, A, and D. Those are the two classic voicings that you kind of want. Now over here, I got rid of the fifth and I'm playing the sixth now. Now that wouldn't seem like it would work. Seems like the notes would be just too close together to work. But the fact is that it sounds pretty good. And on the piano, you can make clusters of notes work. You end up, what's the important thing to hear? The melody, the C. And it comes out. You could even play them briefly. I mean, these are things that people aren't going to talk about. But these are the subtleties that make the tune come alive and also give you your own style, you know. I could, here I'm adding a 13 below. Rather than that, I'm adding, so here's C7, here's C9. Here I'm moving one note up to the A, that's the 13, all right? And I'm going to take this note with the left hand, maybe, and I have that voicing now. But that's your classic. If I see the chord C7, I don't really play C7 usually. I play this, or I take these two notes and play them up here, and I play this. So that's too low. I can't play that voicing because the melody's up here. I can't play this voicing because the melody's too high. You know, the melody's not A, it's G. So I need that there. So I could kind of compromise. I could have sort of split the difference and play this. Or I could even do that. I could stick my thumb in the crack there. That's a ninth and the third. Or this. Now, here again, 13. Here's the 13, the E. Usually, we get rid of the fifth. The fifth is superfluous. The fifth, you know, it doesn't particularly function very much. But that's your basic bass line. This left-hand bass, that's your kind of your classic boogie woogie bass. Connect the bottom notes, short. So there you are. There's some fun stuff to work on for the summer. Just check out the million different versions on YouTube, because there's so many great versions of it. It's been recorded so many times. And it's a great tune if, just want to get together with friends and kind of jam, Okay, this is Jonathan, the Piano Lesson. Thank you again for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.